Fawzia, Amrit, Ayana. Hey, congratulations on your new film, The Queen of My Dreams.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I love these type of movies. It's so touching and enduring and so on. So Fawzia, I guess I'll throw the first question off to you is where the original idea came from for this film?
The screenplay, the movie, before it was this movie, it was a short film. So I made a short film in 2012 called The Queen of My Dreams. And that happened before I was a filmmaker. I was just having a very public conversation about my very private struggle about whether I could be queer and Muslim and love Bollywood romance all at the same time. And making that film saved my life. And sharing that film gave me a community that I didn't have before. I shared it, at film festivals. And so started making more in that space. But because I was an actor at the time, my big dream was to do a one-person show in a theater. Like I had a dream once of being like, I need to perform at the Edinburgh Fringe. Like that's the biggest thing. And so I developed this one-person show in Chicago with this incredible company called Catharsis Productions, and got to perform it in Chicago theaters. I performed it in Denmark. I performed it in Pakistan in 3 cities. And that was a really personal story where the character's name was Fawzia. And that was called Me, My Mom, and Sharmila, about me, my mother, and my relationship, our relationship with Sharmila Tagore, this famous actress. Um, and it was only after that that I started writing more shorts and web series. I made a feature film in 2017 that went to South by Southwest called Signature Move. And it was only then that I really started to think that maybe I could keep taking this story that's deeply in my body with me and make it also into a movie and a screenplay. And so that's kind of how that part of the journey began. It took a lot of different people at that point, producers, collaborators, funders, believers, actors. But here we are.
And here we are. Thank you for being in this film. But what initially drew both of you into this project?
I think that when I was auditioning, I had gotten the script and it was such a beautiful script. Like I don't even know how to explain to you like my feelings when I read it the first time. It was like it was so amazing. And I think my immediate thoughts were just I have to do this. Like please, please let me do this. And so I auditioned and I remember and I was telling my dad, I was like, oh my God, I hope that I get to do this film. And then I got cast and the experience was just so amazing. And like Fawzia said, like it was community and everything, and it was so great. And yeah, it was just Fawzia's amazing writing that was, that drew me to want to be in this film.
Well, I absolutely loved when I read the script, similar to Ayana. And what I loved most about it was the discussion of intergenerational trauma and anger towards mothers and how we behave to our daughters continues if the next generation doesn't stop and look at themselves. And that full circle of the grandchild going back to the grandmother and seeing and understanding the in between. And I think we can all have a lot more empathy towards our parents, and we're all bratty. And it made me look at my own behavior towards my mother, and have more compassion towards her. So it's I think a watch beyond just culture, a human watch of understanding our parents and where they come from and forgiving them.
That's true. Speaking of generationals, I mean, we're talking about 1969, 1989, and the late 1900s, as the younger generation call it, 1999. Fazia, tell us about creating the three different periods and the looks and the colorizations of to distinguish them.
It was really important to me coming into this that all the film in its entirety be vibrant. We have seen coming of age stories that are gritty and edgy and dark and kind of in that sepia tone, or stories of Mexico or Pakistan, countries where there's a certain story that you're, and they're always sepia, and it's intended to provoke and to show the underbelly of these places. And having been to Pakistan many times, I I am always deeply in spaces of family and joy and that vibrancy. So that was really important to preserve that. And to sort of change the narrative of how these places are depicted. I've seen all the movies where they show this. There will be many more movies where they're gritty stories. That's not the one I wanted to make. The way we approached it initially was every conversation from interview with production designer, interview with DP involved the importance of the vibrancy. My DP created a LUT, which is basically created a look that you put onto the camera so that you're not looking at raw footage from the camera. You're looking at something that is full of life and color. That way, anyone on set could look in the camera and could see the world that we were actually trying to create. Everybody could be speaking the same language through the color story. So it was exceptionally important. We really latched onto the color blue because blue was the color of the Sharmila Tagore sari that appears in all of the fantasies. And so blue became the color of fantasy. That was really important. It's also the color of the ocean that ties Karachi, Pakistan to Nova Scotia, Canada, in this two seemingly different places that are so actually similar in this unexpected way, being port cities. And then in post-production, we really were belabored finding the nuance in color as well. So there are 5 looks in the film, the 90s, the 80s, the 60s, but there's also the fantasy sequences with which Amrit and Ayana are both in. And there's the film within the film, which is a real film from 1969 called Aradhana. And that is, as it says in its opening credits, in Technicolor. And so we tweaked except for that one, we tweaked every look. So there are 5 distinctive looks, all of them kind of being a little bit different than the other, but all of them maintaining that vibrance. You know, the 60s, romantic. The 80s have a bit of a synthetic but Tupperware vibe. But these colors you see throughout, but they're just tweaked to be in the literal era that they're in and to evoke a feeling of that place.
So true. I'm Diana. Playing the same character. This isn't the first time you two met in person, right? I mean, how do you feel for both of you playing the same character in the same film?
Um, well, I actually have two thoughts, and I'll be quick. And one, I wanted to speak to the question you asked Fawzia as a story that I haven't shared to Fawzia, which I'll just share here. The look is so powerful that people of the generation that lived at that time remember it that way. And one of my best friends, her father is from Karachi, and he was dying. He just learned that he was going to die in 3 weeks. And his dying wish was to watch Queen of My Dreams in a movie theater, because it was the way he saw Karachi depicted as he remembered it in his childhood. And that's a really big deal. That was his dying wish. And it goes to the specificity of Fawzia choosing to make it look and intentionally having it look the way people remember it to look. So I'm really happy to be part of that. And that was one of the proudest moments of me as an actor, to be part of someone's dying wish like that. In terms
Just drop
of
that in there. Just drop it.
in terms of
So
look,
beautiful. That's so beautiful. Thank you for
in
sharing that.
terms of, yeah, I think that's important. And I think that's important in terms of understanding why your question is so important, because that was very important for Fawzia and it resonated with audiences. And in terms of playing the same character, the funny thing is I have a teacher who looked at Ayana and she was like, you know, she looks like you, so you don't really have to do much. So I was like, okay, God took care of it. But and then the rest was just doing the acting. Yeah. Ayana?
No, I'm really glad and thankful that I got to play the same character as Amrit, who I think is literally so fantastic and like so amazing, and you're such an inspiration. And I remember, I think there was one thing that you told me, which is you were like, Ayana, you were left-handed when you were writing, and now I have to be left-handed all the time when I'm.
Oh yeah.
and I and I remember that, and I was just thought that it's so funny, and I just think that throughout this movie we got to make a connection, and we both interpreted the same character in different ways, while also kind of being the same, which I think is really important.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Amrit, Ayana, I I don't really know your ages, but I'm under the assumptions that you didn't live during those time periods. So what was it like going back to, doing period pieces? And I mean, for Amrit, I think you lived during 1999, but not not in that. Yeah. So what was it like being transported into those time periods for yourselves?
Ayana, you want to take that one, and then I'll.
Yeah, sure. I, you're right. I was not living during 1989 or 99, but I learned a lot about it as I was filming, and kind of like the lifestyle that was present during that time period, and it's acting, and this was kind of like I was in that time period, which was really cool to kind of experience, and Fawzia kind of made that really apparent. Um, and yeah, I think I learned a lot rather than knowing. I was able to understand where how that time period kind of was present in this world.
For me, I didn't focus on the time period as much as embodiment, which is an exercise I do. So for Mariam, I did embodiment of my mother in many ways, how she talked, how she walked, how she thought, who lived in the time period. And then, so I wasn't really thinking about the time period. It was about being honest to my mother's portrayal.
Well said. And Fazia, was there a debate on how you wanted to end this film?
Huh. Great question. Was there a debate? I'm trying to remember. I mean, I wanted what was really important to me and is very important to me is I believe in aspirational worlds and I believe in aspirational storytelling. And I believe that we need to see hope in art, because so much of art, in particular, art that depicts any of us, and I say us, like whether it's Amrit, Fazia, Ayana, any of us, um, is usually often depicting one of us being murdered, taking our lives, dying by suicide. Like there's so much violence perpetrated against us, either by someone or by ourselves. And I really want to offer an alt solution. And so I think we need to see those stories of survival and thrival. So I love an end that's a beginning. That's one of my truths because I think I've benefited from that hopefulness and believing that it's possible to begin again because I have with, whether it's my mother or with other people, you can begin again. And so that was important. I think the exact way in the edit, you're always rewriting in the edit. So it was finding the right collection of those pieces that we shot to find how we would end. I will say that it wasn't scripted, but there's a line. It was something that I realized I wanted in while we were editing and doing, and we did some ADR for the film. But I realized I wanted I wanted a button on the end of the visual moment of mother-daughter, and then I wanted a button. I wanted to know what Azra was going to do. I wanted to hear a moment of that beginning as well. Like you see them laugh at, but so that was an ADR line that was an idea after the fact. And bringing us back to the Qawwali singers, Qawwali music is such a portal into another dimension. It's deeply, it's Sufi mysticism. It's poetry that is sung. It is all about repetition and the divine. And so it's also very repetition. It's very cyclical. And so ending on the Qawwals, on the Qawwali performers was very intentional as a way of showing there is a cycle, and these relationships, and we as people we're in these cycles. but here we're also stepping outside of it. Like we're both stepping outside of it and we're like going back around. It's like a circle, but maybe it's a spiral, right? Like maybe we get to keep moving, but maybe not repeat the same mistake.
Well said. I mean, this is a wonderful, magical, emotional, generational film, and I thank all three of you speaking to us about the Queen of My Dreams, and I especially like Ayana's the performance of that chicken. What was it? Choo 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 thing. I mean that really did make me smile. So thank you very much for speaking to us about this film.
Thank you
Thank
so
Thank you
much.
you.
so much.